Prohibition, Obamacare, the war on drugs, slavery, Jim Crow laws, not letting women vote. These are all policies that we're familiar with in the United States of America. And these are all policies that we can all agree are failures. At the time of these policies, when they were set in place, people all believed them to be okay. And clearly looking back, that's not the case. Today, we currently have policies that need to be changed so that we don't look back and think the same way about policies we have today as we look back at those policies then. Prostitution in this country is one of those policies that needs to change. Prostitution is dangerous for everyone that's involved, and it oftentimes drags innocent individuals into the mess with them. The current government policy on prostitution is flawed and can be greatly improved. Today we're going to look at the errors of the current policy, what solutions can be used to fix it, and how they can be properly enacted and funded. Some things are illegal, but that doesn't mean that they stop the activity. Speed limits, gun laws, drug laws, these are all laws that we have that people pick and choose when they want to follow them. The same idea is true for prostitution. While it may be illegal, people are still going to do it. Prostitution as it currently operates is excessively dangerous. Women in the industry oftentimes rely on pimps for protection. These men are dangerous and they introduce unwanted drugs into society. Everyone involved in the industry is medically at risk because there's no medical attention provided, and this leaves men and women unable to get proper checkups and have contraceptives and protection to avoid STDs, unwanted pregnancies that can lead to abortions. Women in the sex industry often end up in situations that are very dangerous for themselves. Because of this, according to NoBullying.com, 90% of prostitutes have pimps. Pimps end up abusing these women in the ways that they were looking for protection. Sex trafficking is also a major problem in the United States of America, and this is largely fueled by the policies that we have enacted today, making the sex industry and the services provided by it illegal. Lastly, men and women in this industry find themselves stuck, and oftentimes they can't improve themselves. They come into the industry, and 5 to 10 years later, on average, they leave with nothing different in their lives. These problems can all be fixed with a simple change in government policy. The same way that alcohol was legalized after Prohibition ended, and the same way that marijuana has been legalized in many of the Western United States, prostitution can be legalized as well. As a Californian, I can attest to the fact that not much has changed with the legalization of marijuana. The people who chose to smoke before still smoke, and those that didn't, don't. This would be the same with prostitution. People who chose to solicit these services before would still, and people who didn't still wouldn't. The only thing that would be different is there would be less people in our jails and a much larger tax base to help our society. The way this would be able to be enacted would be having centralized brothels that would be able to prevent women from being out on the streets in dangerous situations, and various other benefits. The most important of these benefits would be the regulation of sex work. Workers at the facility would be required to have checkups. This would make sure that they did not have any UTIs or STDs or STIs, anything of that nature, in order to work. The same would be required for people who are looking to buy the services. They would be required to have a similar health checkup, making sure that they don't have anything. In addition to that, there would be a background check to see if they had any violent crimes in their history, to attempt to alleviate violence on the workers in the industry. Medical attention would be provided at the facility by an OB doctor, which would be able to help solve any problems that were created by the work that was done at the facility. In addition to this, sex trafficking would also be drastically reduced. While I realize it's inevitable to completely eradicate this problem, supply and demand would suggest that it would be reduced. Currently, there's a high demand with how our policies are established for the use of illegal sex to be sold. This creates a high demand for sex traffickers, which leads to a high supply. If people could go to a legal, safer situation, they would choose to do so. And this would then reduce the demand for sex trafficking and then reduce the supply. In addition to this legalization process at the brothels, I would like to suggest that there's betterment provided for the employees of these facilities. Having education and vocational opportunities would allow the individuals working there to better themselves get an education, learn skills, so that after they're done with this portion of their career, they can move on to have a better life and better society as well. Paying for all of these ideas might seem difficult. However, evidence suggests that it would not be at all. According to HavocScope.com, that does a lot of research on the black market, says that $40 million is spent every day in the United States on prostitution. If prostitution were to be taxed similarly to how marijuana has been taxed or it has been legalized, the tax income would be enormous. According to taxfoundation.org, there is nearly a 25 to 35% tax rate on marijuana that is sold and grown. If a similar tax rate of 30% were to be placed on prostitution, it would be able to generate $12 million a day and $4.3 billion a year. This would be more than enough to provide the simple medical, educational, and betterment programs that I have suggested. In the United States of America, there is definitely a large stigma against the sex industry. While this may always be the case, there will always still be people working in this industry. And if this is the case, why do we not make the situation the best that it possibly can be? Legalization is what is needed to make this idea a reality, and that is only done through voting. So when Proposition 96 hits the ballots next November, vote for the betterment of the millions of men and women that work in the sex industry. According to NoBullying.com, there are nearly 2 million prostitutes in the United States of America, and in addition to that, many people that seek their services. A vote for yes would help improve their lives. I did not come here today to convince you what is right or wrong in a sense of morality. Rather, I hope to show you the benefits that everyone in this country could gather from the legalization of prostitution, an industry that already exists and will continue to exist. The lives of men and women nationwide would be improved and by a change in this policy. The country would be safer and a healthier place, and the individuals working there would better themselves and then better society. Please don't let yet another flawed government policy have a negative impact on millions of Americans. Passing this proposition will improve the health, safety, and the quality of life of the people involved in the sex industry. Please vote yes on Proposition 96.